Imagine this: you walk into your own home, and every gesture, every silence, every glance from her is a coded message. The air is thick. You feel a charge and a chill, like someone's locked away your sense of certainty. There's love, desire, tension, and a wild suspicion running underneath it all. A feeling you can't name. The psychologist calls it the invisible leash. Jung called it the dance of family dynamics, where control is a currency, traded in glances and half-spoken words. You think you're in charge. You think you make the decisions. But there are strings you can't see, tension you don't fully understand. Look closer. You crave trust, clarity, and connection. Yet you stumble on the same patterns: confusion, frustration, the gnawing feeling you're missing something vital. You catch yourself thinking, is she playing a game with me? But then you doubt. Maybe this anxiety is just a remnant of emotional scars or failed communication. Is this love, or just psychological manipulation disguised as intimacy? Tonight, you learn the truth. The psychological tricks women use to control men, not for malice, but as ancient, inherited habits. 5 invisible moves, carved into the bones of every marriage, every secret message, every word left unsaid. This isn't about blame. This is about power. Are you ready to see the strings? You wonder why your marriage feels unpredictable. One night, passion blazes; the next, the bedroom turns into tundra. Communication stalls. Each attempt at connection ricochets off her silence. You doubt yourself. Is it something you did? Or is it something you didn't notice? Your thoughts circle back to her emotional oxygen tank. She doles it out, then withdraws without warning. This is Jung's first dynamic: emotional withdrawal as power. In family psychology, withdrawal isn't always rejection. It's a move, a test, a way to shift the balance. You chase, she retreats. You doubt, she watches. Your confidence withers just enough for her to shape your emotions. Suddenly, attraction turns into anxiety. The habit forms: you try harder, speak softer, give more. Your relationship becomes a cycle of hope and confusion. Here's the pain: you feel rejected in 100 small ways. Not with words, not with accusations, but with silence. It's loneliness, served up in your own marriage. You want trust, but her silence keeps you guessing. You keep searching for understanding in every sigh, every look away. You fear you're losing her. But what if this is the plan? What if the cold distance is a map to your own uncertainty? You must see it as a psychological trick. A lever inside your emotions. You're addicted to clarity. But in your home, clarity is always just out of reach. Her words shift. Efforts to communicate become puzzles. Sometimes, her texts drip affection; sometimes, her tone becomes razor sharp. You compensate, bending toward her approval. You worry about cheating, emotional cheating, adultery, even microflirtations. Infidelity blooms in ambiguity. But you're not sure where you stand, because her signals constantly slip through your fingers. Welcome to hot and cold communication. Jung called this the push-pull force in relationships. The mind craves stability, but she's mastered inconsistency, a psychological trick designed to keep your thinking hooked. When communication sours, you hang on her every word for reassurance. Compare your reactions: the more she withholds warmth, the deeper you sink into fear and longing. You lose yourself in speculation, jealousy, mistrust. This isn't random. It's instinct and habit, scripted by generations of spouses seeking leverage. She tests your emotional endurance. She triggers your doubt, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unconsciously. You want her love, her attention, her clarity. She holds the cards. Are you building connection, or feeding an addiction to uncertainty? She knows the power of vulnerability, not yours, but hers. The moment you see tears, you want to fix, to soothe, to prove your love. Your psychology recoils. Women in pain trigger your protective instincts, your sense of duty. But Jung's method reveals another angle. Vulnerability can be a weapon. When she shares weaknesses selectively, she creates a maze for you to navigate. Is she being genuine or strategic? Your emotions dart between empathy and suspicion. She reveals a heartbreak, a fear of divorce, a confession of loneliness, just when arguments peak. Your mind clouds over, unable to separate truth from calculation. Her timing rewires your habits. You become a caretaker, ignoring your own needs. The emotional intensity is hypnotic, sharp. Attraction morphs into anxiety. You're the healer, tasked with restoring trust and understanding, regardless of the facts. The pain runs deep. Are you loving, or being managed? Are you communicating, or participating in a roleplay you didn't choose? Your marriage aches under this confusion. Emotional cheating and adultery lurk in the shadows, not always with other people, but with the distortion of truth within your own relationship. How do you know if her vulnerability is a bridge or a trap? You say something safe. She responds with a dagger. Other men do more. Other husbands listen better. Suddenly, you're not just fighting with your spouse, you're running against a gallery of imagined rivals. Stark comparisons slice into your confidence. In Jung's theory, this isn't just criticism, it's psychological triangulation. She uses contrast as leverage, manufacturing scarcity and urgency. In family psychology, comparisons are deadly. They ignite your insecurities, dragging up habits from childhood, fear of rejection, anxiety about your own worth. You become obsessed with competition, not communication. Attraction dissolves into rivalry. You think about cheating, about trust, about the fragility of your own marriage. You replay every criticism, trying to rise above the ghosts she summoned. But the game is rigged. The rivals are ideas, perfect men who never make mistakes, who never emotionally betray or fail to understand. These comparisons are designed to fracture your resolve, weaken your position, incite action. You scramble for validation, tripping over logic and emotion. She commands your thinking through pain. You chase her standards. The game doesn't end. Are you living for her, or for your own sense of self? Unpredictability isn't chaos, it's control. You start each day uncertain which version of her you'll meet, the lover, the critic, the stranger. She withholds approval, affection, and sometimes information. You try harder, digging for cues in her mood swings, adjusting your behavior to crack her code. Your habits shift, you second-guess your words, you analyze her silences, desperate for stable ground. Jung's psychology uncovers the motive. Unpredictability keeps you on edge, tuning your emotional awareness to her frequency. Attraction grows toxic. You chase certainty that never arrives. Inside relationships, this unpredictability erodes trust, challenging your confidence at its roots. Communication breaks down, you lose faith in your own instincts. She becomes the axis on which your days spin. You dread emotional cheating, suspicion of adultery, split-second betrayals born out of confusion. It feels intentional, but it's deeper, it's ancient. Family dynamics use unpredictability as leverage. It makes you a student of her moods, never a master of yourself. You become addicted to the chase, never truly resting. The price? A marriage held hostage by uncertainty. One ordinary argument spirals. You catch yourself doubting your own memory, questioning your motives, replaying her words in the dead of night. Something snaps, frustration boils over into exhaustion. You're tired of chasing her moods, tired of failing her shifting standards. You crave freedom, confidence, understanding. The pain of rejection, the chill of loneliness, all fuse into a single point. You cannot keep living in her psychological maze. Your thinking narrows. You crave a blueprint, a manual, something beyond Jung and Freud, something raw, street smart. You want to break the spell, to reclaim your own narrative. You feel the burden of old habits, generational cycles, family wounds. Your mind races through every breakup, every argument, every time passion curdled into confusion. Divorce isn't the answer, nor is blind surrender. This is the agony of awakening. You wake to the realization, if you don't change, your relationship won't survive. You see the pain for what it is, the price of emotional manipulation in marriage, trust bled dry by psychological tricks. Liberation demands facing the dark. Are you ready for clarity? You become an observer. Suddenly, her patterns aren't mysterious, they're familiar. You spot emotional withdrawal, the cycles of cold bed and colder silence. You anticipate the hot and cold dance, turning her inconsistency into a symptom, not a threat. Vulnerability now looks strategic, you separate genuine pain from rehearsed distress. Stark comparisons lose their sting, you recognize the ghostly rivals as fantasies, not competitors. Withholding stops being a puzzle, you see unpredictability as a tool, and not an unavoidable storm. Jung's family dynamics unravel before you, but your emotions stay grounded. The confusion that once dominated your attraction, your communication, recedes. You catch yourself before you topple into old habits, chasing approval, fearing rejection, suffering from crisis-level trust issues. Awareness is the first taste of freedom, but it's never painless. You must hold the tension. To understand someone is to witness their wounds, their manipulation, their unmet needs. True understanding is sharper than suspicion, it brings understanding, but demands you remain steady. You're seeing her moves and, for the first time, you're thinking for yourself. Now you set boundaries. You protect your emotional home. Communication changes, you ask direct questions, demand honest answers, refuse unpredictability. Your confidence begins to return, attraction is no longer a game, it's a choice. You're building a new version of your marriage, based not on secret manipulation, but on mutual respect. The pain of rejection dulls, replaced by a new intensity of self-respect. You acknowledge the old wounds, the habits inherited from dysfunctional family psychology. You learn to separate her moods from your worth, to distinguish her choices from your future. Each time infidelity or emotional cheating whispers through your mind, you turn attention inward, tracking your reactions instead of her mysteries. This is liberation. It's hazardous, heartbreaking, and it's yours. You regain your sense of self, not through domination or withdrawal, but through conscious understanding. Trust begins to rebuild, but only as communication deepens, only as you refuse to play the game she was taught to play. Strength isn't brute force, it's clarity. You choose who you are, with or without her validation. Freedom comes in waves. You redefine attraction, stepping away from the psychological traps, the neediness, the endless pursuit of approval. Marriage morphs into partnership, communication becomes deliberate. You see your wife not as a puppeteer, but as a person shaped by her own survival instincts, wounded by her own habits, carrying her own misunderstood desires. Jung offers a final revelation: every family dynamic is mapped by pain, by longing for love, for safety, for recognition. When you understand her tricks, you also glimpse her vulnerabilities, and the ancient fear of rejection encoded in her psychology. You refuse the old games, emotional withdrawal, unpredictable habits, cruel comparisons, strategic vulnerability. You choose understanding. You reject manipulation. Trust now becomes a practice, not a promise. You build marriage on strength, not sabotage. Attraction is no longer confusion. It is clarity. You become the architect of your relationship. No more hostage. No more confusion. Imagine confronting the chaos head-on. You sit across from her, the air tense, your mind clear. The old silence no longer commands you, instead, you speak. You say what hurts. You describe the patterns: withdrawal, unpredictability, the calculated vulnerability. You name every comparison, every instance you felt less than, every time the invisible rivals haunted your marriage. She listens, sometimes fighting, sometimes shrinking from the truth. Conscious communication isn't easy, it strips away safe distance, forces both of you to face the fracture points. You demand answers, you offer explanations. Attraction transforms in the light of honesty, it grows richer, more dangerous, and more beautiful. You refuse the manipulation, and in doing so, risk everything. Honesty is not safe, but neither is confusion. You reclaim your emotional agency. The habit of withholding dies, replaced by deliberate affirmation or rejection. Even the threat of divorce loses its sting, you recognize it as another shadow, not destiny. Genuine trust depends on your courage to speak, and your resolve to stand by your truth. You finally communicate to connect, not to conceal. Her patterns may persist, but you move differently now. Rebuilding trust is an act of war against illusion. Your marriage has run on half-truths, secrets, unspoken fears. Now, your work is ferocious: expose emotional cheating, face down the specter of adultery, dig up every buried hurt. You return to Freud's method: unmask motives, understand your own emotional biases, investigate your deepest insecurities. Repair demands accountability. You own your flaws, but demand she owns hers. The old tricks lose their power in the daylight. You move past shame, past hiding, you scrutinize your habits so they cannot sabotage you again. Trust is redefined, from wishful thinking into conscious attention. You watch for manipulation, for emotional withdrawal, for unpredictable moods. Each time you see the trap, you reject it, you face her directly. Your marriage becomes a laboratory. Attraction is tested. Understanding deepens. Confidence survives through integrity. You are no longer a secret caretaker, nor a hostage. You are a creator, shaping relationship with intention and vigilance. The ground is shaky, but you're awake. Confidence is a rebellion against comparison. You stop measuring yourself against rivals, real or imagined. You uncouple your self-worth from her moods, her criticisms, her unpredictable approval. Attraction stabilizes, your energy is no longer spent chasing shadows. You make decisions from strength, not desperation. Jung teaches the power of individuation. You are not her mirror, you are not her echo. Communication flows from your center. Family psychology says habits are hard to break, true. But you break them anyway. Your thinking clarifies. You know your boundaries, and you hold them without violence. Marriage, rebuilt on confidence, lets desire bloom without dependence. You desire her, but you do not need her to validate your existence. Trust is earned, not bartered for emotional comfort. Adultery, cheating, old ghosts lose power when you root your actions in self-respect. You attract, not because you seek rescue, but because you command respect. Relationship is no longer a war zone. You lean into truth, and truth is magnetic. She feels your transformation. The old habits die hard. You practice living in the new paradigm. You confront her emotional withdrawal before it snowballs. You meet hot and cold communication with steady presence, you name it, diffuse its impact. Strategic vulnerability fails to hook you, you separate care from manipulation. Comparisons become irrelevant, you refuse the contest. Unpredictability loses its edge, you set your own emotional climate. Relationship becomes a ritual of honesty. You journal your thoughts, dissect emotions, recalibrate your reactions. Attraction is cultivated through clear intention, communication designed for real understanding. Marriage becomes more than survival, it is a practice in confidence, curiosity, and courage. Each time she reverts to old psychological tricks, you make a different choice. You respond, never react. Habits change, thinking clears. Trust deepens. Spouses become allies, not antagonists. Understanding replaces suspense. You evolve. Your love life refuses to be ordinary. Divorce, once the threat, now fades into impossibility, as long as you commit to these new rules. The dark is gone. The games are done. Jung believed family wounds travel in bloodlines. Family psychology maps how secrets become habits, how betrayal is taught like a language. You stand at the edge of generational trauma. Your marriage, your relationship, your habits, all reenact ancient stories unless you choose to end them. This is your rebellion. You question every inherited cue, how attraction was modeled, how trust was broken, how manipulation felt like love. You abandon emotional cheating as a legacy, reject adultery as fate, refuse divorce as destiny. Communication is not just for survival, it's for liberation. Seeing her tricks is only the beginning. Your challenge is to rewrite them, to close the chapter on unconscious control. You break the old habits, risking discomfort for freedom. Confidence becomes your inheritance. You give your children something new, a map without secrets, a marriage built on self-awareness. The shadow is persistent. It lives in every old argument, every moment of reactive pain. But you don't run. You stare it down. Transformation begins when you refuse to pass the wound onward. You end the cycle. With courage. Think darker. These tricks aren't exclusive to her, they are mirrors. You see her patterns, yet what if you reflect them too? Jung's family dynamics teach that in relationships, we attract our own shadows. You both wield withdrawal, inconsistency, and comparison. What you accuse, you may also unconsciously deploy. This insight is unsettling, a rupture in your sense of control. Look at her through Freud's lens. Every habit, every withholding, every sigh disguises a childhood disappointment, a learned fear, a craving for safety. The seductive game of hot and cold isn't always cruelty, it's defense. The comparison wounds you, but once, it protected her from feeling invisible. Her unpredictability is her armor, and so is yours. You're not only partners, you're adversaries and mirrors, both seeking validation and both fearing exposure. You confront this and it stings. The urge to fight back fades. You soften, but you do not weaken. Genuine attraction emerges from empathy, not conquest. Suddenly, her tricks dissolve into our wounds. Your marriage, even your intimacy, is a wild negotiation of two wounded children in adult skins. This is the soil where real transformation begins. You watch, you challenge, but you also forgive. Every day, you decide, will you play the old role or write a new script? Emotional consent, it's revolutionary. You refuse to be managed, and you refuse to manage. You choose openness and demand it in return. You meet her silence with patience but no longer surrender to confusion. You respond to unpredictability by showing up as yourself, solid, unmoved by storms. You understand that old habits beg for reaction. She expects you to chase her coldness or shrink under comparisons. Those days are gone. Emotional cheating becomes impossible when neither of you consents to secrecy. The urge to manipulate, to trigger, to control is examined and set aside. Instead, you practice presence, trust, and clarity, one awkward, imperfect conversation at a time. Slowly, your relationship shifts. Communication deepens, not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. Attraction is traded in glances of recognition, in moments when your habits threaten to drag you back, but don't. It's liberating. The urge to run, sabotage, or fall into familiar drama dissolves. You realize, you're only trapped if you choose to be. Your marriage, your relationship, your confidence now stand on consent, not coercion. Intimacy is an alchemical fire. The pain you suffered in her games, the rejection, the suspicion, the endless uncertainty, becomes the forge for your evolution. Jung said that what you do not bring to consciousness emerges as fate. You refuse fate. You transform. The wounds are transmuted, each habit unveiled, each emotional betrayal dissected, each toxic dynamic rewritten. Now, pain is information. Her withdrawal? A litmus test: can you stand alone? Her mood swings? A cue to remain grounded. Her comparisons? A challenge to your mature self-regard. By facing the unpleasant, you breed strength. Attraction intensifies, paradoxically, as both of you abandon old protections. Communication, finally, becomes revelation, not just exchange. You claim your power through radical awareness. This is not about dominating her, but leading yourself into clarity. Mistrust, suspicion, fear of adultery, they lose magnetism as your inner life becomes untangled. Divorce turns from threat to insignificance. You know what you stand for, and what you offer. The marriage evolves from survival to creativity. In this crucible, you remake what relationship means. You reach the summit. It's just you, her, and the totality of your choices. Every mask gone. Every pattern exposed. The pain of her psychological tricks is dwarfed by the pain of living small, giving up your own truth. In this final confrontation, you no longer seek permission. You no longer bargain for affection. You stand, raw and unguarded, trusting your own perception. Attraction is no longer entanglement. It is invitation. Trust is no longer demanded, it is given, daily, through choices. Communication is not for control, but for clarity. You comprehend marriage not as bondage, but as conduction, energy passing from one aware person to another. Cheating, emotional or physical, cannot breed in this light because secrets dissolve. She may resist. Old habits protest. Family psychology warns, real change shakes every comfort. But you hold steady. You refuse the cycle of manipulation and codependency. If the marriage lives, it does so on new, fertile soil. If it doesn't, you walk away whole, finally, fiercely, whole. Your liberation is personal. You claim it without apology. Now you know. Clarity is your weapon. Jung and Freud were guides, not gods. Their maps were drawn in the dark, but you walk in light now. The 5 psychological tricks: emotional withdrawal, hot and cold communication, strategic vulnerability, destructive comparisons, and unpredictability, lose all power in the presence of your awareness. You will see them again, in others, in yourself. But your marriage, your relationship, your future will no longer be ruled by secrecy or sabotage. You choose habits. You choose resilience. Communication is your crucible. Confidence, your armor. Trust, rebuilt one clear truth at a time. Attraction, no longer a battlefield, but a freedom. The journey began with pain, confusion, rejection. It ends with self-respect and the courage to meet love without flinching. Family psychology ends where your intention begins. From now on, you are never anyone's puppet, never anyone's illusion. You stand naked, strong, and awake. This is your new law: you cannot be controlled.